When did the class clown take it too far? Story 1. I knew a guy, high school student in the late 60s. He and his best friend were very close, but had also dated the same girl. My buddy dated this girl first. Now the friend was dating her. No problems, but they both understood how this could be perceived as a potential friendship ender. They had a joke all planned out. The best friend grabbed some ketchup packets from a fast food restaurant. After lunch, he was sitting in class with the packets torn slightly, tucked unnoticeably in his hand. My buddy had the starter pistol from the track and field team. You see where this is going. My buddy ran into the classroom and shouted, "You can't steal my girl from me. If I can't have her, no one can." He fired the starter pistol, filled with blanks, in the direction of his best friend. The friend, who had jumped up from his desk during the shouting, clutched his chest from the fake wound, sending horrifying streaks of red ketchup flying all over his white t-shirt. He collapsed, the look of horror on the face of every student in the room. My buddy said was amazing. He and his best friend both got detention. Story 2. Someone in my year at school who wanted to be a doctor drank a bottle of antibacterial hand wash for $5. He did it because there is nothing bad in there. His words. Needless to say, he got his stomach pumped. Story 3. This one kid thought it would be funny to snort a line of that sour powder. This was no small line, mind you. I actually think he was rubbing it off the candy. Anyways, he does his line and instantly starts screaming. His nose was gushing blood, and I honestly think he popped a blood vessel in his eye, ran out of the room, and later saw an ambulance come to the school. Story 4. There was a class clown in my class and another one from the senior class at the time. They'd collaborated to throw toilet paper all over the schoolyard as a joke. I forget exactly what it was, but there was some kind of very important event going on that day, and we were supposed to have a lot of visitors that afternoon. The principal was not amused. He said if they had done that on any other day, he would probably just let it go after making them clean it up. They got detention, and one of the teachers made them personally apologize to the elderly janitor, who had to clean that up in the dark when it was freezing cold. Edit. The janitor found the mess when he'd gotten to school that morning, while it was still dark around 6 a.m. or so. He started cleaning it up himself before anyone knew who did it. The office pulled the footage from the outdoor security cameras later that morning. Because it was such a small school, those dudes were identified in about 30 seconds. Story 5. I was the class clown, and I took it too far. 7th grade, math. My teacher's name was Mr. Brown, B.E. Usher Middle School. Not sure why, but at that time in my life, I just wanted some attention. I craved it, wanted all the other kids to pay attention to me. Mr. Brown was a good teacher, and I was a bad student. Can't exactly remember why, but I caused Mr. Brown to throw me out of class yet again. We weren't supposed to take the textbooks out of class, but I still had mine in my hand when I was told to leave. I realized it when the door was closed behind me. I opened the door, and Mr. Brown was sitting in a way where his back was to the door, and his chair was somewhat close. I tossed the book back into the class, and it went really close to his head. I said something that I thought was smart-mouthed, like, "Here's your book, you filthy animal." Maybe not that, but it was something silly. After the book hit the floor, Mr. Brown stood up so fast. He was more angry than I'd ever seen a teacher. Honestly, I can't remember what type of consequences I faced after that, but it's a non-issue now. Mr. Brown, if for some reason you're on Reddit and reading this comment, I am so sorry. As an adult, I look back and realize how much of an awful person I was to you. You didn't deserve it. I realize how much you had to have wanted to hit me in that moment. and I definitely deserved it. Again, I am so sorry. You was a good man, and you really wanted to make a difference. Story 6. In 6th grade, we had a young Japanese woman who was teaching us Japanese. Go figure. One day during that class, the clown, who was a weird kid that sucked his thumb up until like 5th grade, shot a rubber band and it hit her in the eye. Her initial reaction was funny to 12-year-old kids, so there was a group giggle until she started to scream, "My eye! Who shot my eye?" and such before yelling, "I hate you!" and running from the room. Our regular teacher, who wasn't present at the time, returned, and his reaction was exactly what everyone needed. He didn't yell, he was known to do so, but not then. He lectured the class about how terrible it was to treat her like that, while he actually had tears running. He said how ashamed he was to have had that happen in his classroom. I don't know how long he went on, but eventually some girls were crying, and even the boys looked like they weren't that far behind. I know I felt bad despite being respectful to her, though I did giggle when the rest did. Just kind of natural. It certainly sobered us up, and we never saw her again. I don't know what punishment Clown got. Later that year, he started a fight with me for some reason, and got what he deserved. Story 7. He would try to jump around, parkour style, desk to desk, all class long. Sometimes would fall comically, breaking things and falling into people, trying to get a laugh. Constantly redirected for trying to do run flips on the wall, telling horrible jokes, or balance large objects on himself. He always wanted attention. We just wanted to learn beginning French. We all, including the teacher, took to ignoring him. One day he couldn't handle people not paying attention to him, so he tried to see if he, for the first time ever, could do a backflip. Landed on his neck. Was out of class for a long time. Story 8. He put a hit of acid into our woodshop teacher's coffee. Fortunately, our woodshop teacher recognized the onset and immediately called into the office and said that he is leaving right now as he is feeling very unwell, but will remain in class until a replacement arrives. We had a teacher fill in about 15 minutes, and our woodshop teacher left. At lunch, we saw that his car was still parked in the parking lot. This was well before cell phones, so there's no way he called someone. Come to find out, he ran to a local park and waited out the storm as he realized that he was dosed with acid and that he was a teen in the 70s, so he knew. The next day he thought class was normal and didn't mention it. Story 9. He got kept back in class over break as a punishment for being too annoying, or something along the lines of that. The teacher then needed to leave the class to go and photocopy something, and he got up and started messing around at her desk. When he saw her coming back into the room, he thought it would be funny to bolt over to the door and slam it as hard as he could on her hand. She broke 2 fingers and had a bad panic attack. He got suspended for 2 days, and the school tried to press charges on him. Story 10. He put laxatives in the teacher's coffee, and things just went crazy. He ended up getting suspended, and the teacher tried pressing criminal charges on him. Story 11. My favorite science teacher's room had a drop ceiling. Every day after school, I would take a yardstick and randomly select a single ceiling tile to lift up and place a skill out of its frame. The science classroom was very cluttered, so it didn't look too obvious. After 3 weeks, I had moved 15 panels out of place, and the teacher hadn't noticed. On the 4th week, she suddenly noticed and thought her freshman homeroom class had done it all at once. That morning, as a prank, while she wasn't looking, she yelled at them for 15 minutes about disrespecting her classroom, and then made them all put the ceiling tiles back in their correct positions. I never fessed up after seeing how angry she was. I thought it was a good, harmless prank, but based on her reaction, I obviously didn't read the situation correctly. Story 12. Just before a basketball regional or something, he took something like 20,000 silica balls and spread them in the gymnasium. Apparently, those will react with your common floor lacquer, so they had to strip the entire floor and refinish it. I'm pretty sure he spent some time locked up for vandalism. Story 13. No individual moment, but our class clown so consistently raised his hand to ask stupid questions that our class was literally a few days to a week behind the other class that didn't have him in terms of getting through all the slideshows. The teacher literally made a rule that he could then only ask one question per day. Story 14. Freshman year of college. This dude was always hounding girls for attention, and the girl he sat behind came in one morning and set her purse down between their desks. He proceeds to grab said purse, which had pink obviously marked pepper spray on the keychain, starts playing with the pepper spray, mimicking her how she put perfume on in the hall right before she came in. He then sprays it. He just meant to do a short blast. It was one of the automatic locking canisters. It empties in the small closed classroom. We're all coughing and hacking. Teacher comes in, immediately starts coughing and eyes watering. Guy calmly as he can explains what happened. Teacher, who is also his baseball coach, looks him in the eyes and says, "You're a Class dismissed." Teacher was so angry he was actually arrested 2 weeks later for choking said kid during practice. Story 15. I always hated this kid. He was a year older than us and should have been in high school by the time I was finishing up junior high. As far as I know, he is still in junior despite him supposed to be finishing high school. While I never liked him because he constantly interrupted people, goofed off an annoying amount, and was incredibly loud and never even funny. Everyone else liked him, even my friends. But one day, he ruined all of that. We were doing our unit on feudal Japan, and we were learning all about how they farmed and such. He decided now would be a great time to make a rice joke. Out loud. He said something along the lines of, "They probably stunted in culture because all they eat is rice." He thought this was hysterical, and normally people would laugh too, but not that time. We all just looked at him. He kept on laughing and laughing. He said it again and again. Worst part? We had an Asian kid in our class. Not Japanese, but still Asian. He decided in his infinite wisdom, now would be a great time to say, "That Asian kid got it." That's not me protecting names. That's what he said. After that, he had a pretty poor life in our classes. Of course, outside of them, he was so he got popular for insulting people and destroying school property. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell button to receive notifications to my latest videos.